Story 1. I have lived two lives. Fat and in shape. Once I lost 130 pounds, started dressing well, and started wearing cologne, I magically appeared into the existence of women. Actually, that's not true. I truthfully started noticing some attention at 240-ish pounds. At 195, I get enough looks and comments that I feel like I'm being pranked half the time. Story 2, mid-30s here, and yes, I'll tell you what, I'm still oblivious to it. I have standards now in taking care of myself. I dress comfortably, yet nice-looking, have a haircut that I style with product every day, work out 2 to 3 times a week, very basic routine and a decent amount of cardio, and keep my facial hair groomed but in a short beard. I'm doing this for myself, though, because it makes me feel good. I have noticed I have been receiving more female attention, even from some of the most beautiful women I've seen in my life. However, it's usually after the moment I realize that they have flirted with me or checked me out, and honestly, I'm oblivious and don't really care because I landed a hot girlfriend that I love. Just focus on yourself and make yourself feel good. Other things just fall into place, apparently. I'm still dumb and oblivious 90% of the time, though. Story 3. I suppose some men might become more visible or attractive to women in their 30s due to factors like maturity, stability, or career success. However, this is not guaranteed for everyone, and it largely depends on individual circumstances and preferences. It is also worth considering that becoming more visible does not necessarily equate to being happier or fulfilled in life. Story 4. Yes, I've filled out a little muscle-wise despite being an athlete my whole life. I started making more money than I could hide, even though I'm pretty frugal, dress casually, and drive a normal car. Story 5. Yes, another vote here for working out and dressing well. Also, making eye contact and smiling rather than looking at the ground all the time helps a lot. Story 6. Not me. Unfortunately, my confidence and self-esteem are very low right now. I have a ton of insecurities about myself, especially my physical appearance and my genital size. I'm intentionally degrading myself at this point. Story 7. Yes, I had a lot more confidence around women. Age and experience can do that. I started caring less about what other people thought of me and began prioritizing myself first. Story 8. It was like a switch got flipped when I turned 30. I mean, almost literally overnight. I went from having lots of friends who were women and occasional interest to all of a sudden, it seemed like every woman I met was just short of throwing themselves at me. Even women who had previously only seen me as a platonic friend were asking me to call them more often. I did not really change anything else about myself. I didn't gain or lose any significant amounts of weight. I didn't dress any differently. I didn't have any changes in income. It was the damnedest thing, and I'll never be able to explain it, but it was a fun time for sure. Story 9. While I could always get dates after my company expanded and I was visibly successful and on stage at industry events in my 30s, a lineup of seriously beautiful, well-put-together, stylish, and outwardly interested women of all ages started asking me out or making it very clear we could connect. It was a marked difference from my 20s. It carried on until I got married in my 40s. Even now in my 50s, there is still a lot of attention on me if I go out looking for it. The number of women that flirt and hint at more at work is really high, and they are always the ones that would get me in a lot of trouble with human resources if I proceeded with it, as they are lower in the hierarchy or in my direct chain of command. Story 10. Yes, perceived maturity and relative wealth are factors in successful dating. Everyone approaches dating with a "what do you have for me" mentality. Love is selfish. Story 11. Me for sure. I barely dated at all until my late 20s. I was your basic out-of-shape nerd whom women mostly had no interest in. But then, I started taking my health and appearance a little more seriously. Moreover, single women in that age cohort start placing a higher value on income and stability. My wife and I are now approaching our 30th anniversary. Story 12. Don't get me wrong. Taking care of yourself is key to any good life, but I wonder how much of this is related to women in their late 20s and early 30s hearing their biological clock ticking and realizing the market for decent men tends to shrink over time. It might be less about us than it is them. Story 13. I didn't become visible until I turned 50. I was visible for about 14 minutes and then became invisible again. Use your visibility to the best of your ability. Story 14. To those who have experienced this, does it make you angry? The materialism associated with money and a good body? I'm constantly thinking about how I will be left alone by my girlfriend if I stop working out or earning good money. I also want to date as many women as I can now to just one-up them. I was rejected many times in my 20s because women at that time had many options and therefore discarded me. Now I have many options and, boy, does it make me mad how materialistic the world is. I've broken hearts a few times because I didn't think they suited me and have zero regrets. I don't know why I'm a little vengeful about all this scenario. Story 15. I had my moments since my 20s. I have moments regularly now and have dated women that would have felt way out of reach in my 20s. Working out, better style, and sorting my emotions to the point where I truly have security and confidence have been game changers. Story 16. Not really, closer to 40s. But it really all started with dressing better, being more positive, sociable, and going out more. Kind of funny how many more women look you in the eye when your head isn't up your ass. Story 17. Yep. I finally grew into myself at 30, gained 30 pounds and filled out, ended up at 170. Started lifting at the same time, so I had the 6 feet and six-pack down. That was also the same time my career had solidified, so I had the 6 figures to round it out. I also got my vasectomy, most importantly. My 30s were wild. Story 18. As soon as I gained some success and people could tell I was on track to become someone of importance, women absolutely came out of the woodwork. Most of them were obviously insincere, but it didn't matter since I chose the one who took note but wasn't really impressed. She's the one you want. Story 19. I'm only 27, but I look way better now than a few years ago and get much more attention from women because of a few things: buying better clothes that suit me, improved my personal grooming and hygiene, better shaving products, better skincare products, cologne, grooming, moved from a poor career making no money to a great career in technology. This took 2 years of hard work and was definitely the toughest thing I've accomplished, but through that, I have a completely newfound confidence as a man. Accomplishing tough things unlocks incredible confidence. Started eating better and focusing more on my health. Even though I already have a very solid gym routine since I was 18, got a hair transplant to fix my hairline. This helped tremendously. Don't do these things for women. Do them because you want to improve yourself and your life. The rest will fall into place. Story 20. I didn't know my boyfriend in his 30s, but I met him when he was 51. We've lived in the same neighborhood, just 10 minutes down the street or across the city, for 30 years. We've frequented the same pub on and off for that amount of time. We even lived in Chicago at the same time, but I was too young back then. My point is, I find him way more attractive now than when he was younger. Would I have loved him just the same? Of course. He's probably more grouchy and funny now. Story 21. If you were bad with women in your 20s, you will be bad with women in your 30s. Nothing will magically make you successful. You have to either increase your value as a man or go for women with fewer requirements, for example, 35-year-old single moms. Story 22. My age had nothing to do with it. The wedding ring, however, no sooner did I get married, I had women flirting with me all the time. Women never flirted with me, and I am very socially awkward, so I took notice. I've heard about the phenomenon, but now I definitely believe it. And no, it just wasn't more confidence, as some people say, is the reason. Story 23. At 27 to 28, does that count? It's strange because, aside from my attitude, not much changed at first. In the years since, I hit the gym and got better fitting clothes. I'm 32 now and still have pretty much a baby face. People regularly assume I'm 25 to 26. I'm drinking a coffee literally right now on the street, and the girl I was standing in line with at the cafe was visibly checking me out as she passed by me on the square while I was typing out the sentences above. Story 24. Women often focus on superficial traits. This is why they frequently scroll through dating apps, dismissing potential matches due to minor perceived imperfections or annoyances on their profiles. You can leverage this tendency. Exercising can certainly appeal to the superficial interests of many women, especially by working on arms, shoulders, legs, and to a lesser extent abs. As you build a muscular physique, your attraction to women may increase. Additionally, men might be reluctant to accept this, but it's a real consideration. If your workout routine is effective and consistent, and your diet is relatively clean, yet you struggle with discipline or motivation in life generally, particularly in your 30s, consider visiting a low testosterone clinic to get your levels checked. It can cost between $150 and $300 and is often not covered by insurance. Notice I said low testosterone clinic, not general practitioners. General practitioners may not fully understand and might dissuade you from getting tested due to their limited ability to interpret results accurately. Go to a low testosterone clinic. They specialize in this area and handle it seriously all day. If you're facing issues with gaining muscle, motivation, or libido, it could be related to your testosterone levels. Story 25. Yes, I am in my mid to late 30s, and I do not date women above 27. When I was 27, it was much harder to find someone. Now, having a dating life is a normal part of life. Story 26. Yep, I've said that I wasn't the least bit interesting until I hit my mid-30s. I'd lost the excess weight and became a world traveler, thanks to my job. That's about the time internet dating began to develop, and I remember being amazed at the attention I was receiving. Prior to that, I couldn't get a date to save my soul. Story 27. I'm in my 30s, and I seem to attract younger women more than before. I got openly approached by a 16-year-old girl at a restaurant one day. I had absolutely no clue what to do. I just ignored her while her coworker was like, "What? He's old enough to be your dad." Still can't find any to date, though. Women my age are married already. Story 28. At 35, I got in shape and decided I was good enough for any of them. Confident and fairly attractive, I made a few moves at first, just showed interest, and it worked well. Story 29. Hell yes. Good job, a place of my own, money to spend on hobbies and decent clothes. The game changed completely, coupled with decent social skills, well-read on diverse topics, well-traveled, and a fan of good stand-up comedy. My 30s were the polar opposite of my 20s spent as a poor graduate student. Story 30. Oddly enough, I get more attention in my 30s than I did in my 20s, despite being an everyday gym goer and in great shape. I think it's a couple of things. 1, I'm more approachable now. 2, my baby face is starting to work in my favor. 3, I don't care or get nervous anymore. 4, I think women are just attracted to small, subtle signs of maturity, like a few gray hairs, wrinkles, maybe even a more calm demeanor. I don't know. Story 31. I am 35 and get hit on and approached way more now than in my 20s. Weirdly, it's mostly by younger or older women in my experience. I went out with some friends a few weeks back and had a group of women in their 40s seated at the bar who wanted to chat. One of them bought me a drink and wanted to leave together after about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I went out this last weekend and got a number and made out with a woman who was 28. We met through mutual friends while playing some darts. I'd say I'm in good shape, have a nice head of hair and a mustache, but I'm only 5 feet 7 inches and not very fashionable. So I wouldn't say I have any secret sauce other than I smile and laugh a lot and just try to have fun in the moment. Story 32. I had more therapy under my belt in my 30s. The attention was probably the same. I was tall and broad-shouldered with an attractive face. But I could now accept that yes, in fact, they were looking, or yes, in fact, she made a little pass at you. My self-esteem was very low in my 20s. Story 33. Either status or perhaps you notice it more now that you're not so focused on your studies and accomplishing that goal. Odd as it sounds, I've known several men who have been so career-driven and career-focused that they had little to no romantic or dating life, believing it was something to do with them as a person when really it was just the fact that they did not notice or pick up on the cues. Then they get where they want, or for the most part, and boom, they notice all these women are attracted to them, noticing the interest more. Also, in your 30s, women tend to have a better, more mature idea of what they want. Story 34. I'm 23 and nearing $100,000 a year in Europe as an electrical technician and home automation specialist, but can install geothermal pumps, solar panels, and more. Ever since I got a girlfriend and built a decent physique, I got a lot of attention from women between 20 and 30 years old. I even had a woman stroke my arm when I installed her garden outdoor lights. I politely pulled away without making a big deal out of it, not to fumble the client for the sake of my company and my reputation, but I would consider that sexual harassment if we flipped the roles. If you're successful, driven, and know your worth, women will flock to you. It's in their nature to select men who can provide security for them and their offspring. The most important lesson to younger guys is to stop chasing women, buying drinks, dinners, and all that nonsense. Build a sustainable career, live a healthy lifestyle, and have iron discipline, and your dating life will become much, much easier. Story 35. I hit 30, bought a house, worked on my appearance, working out, finasteride and minoxidil LASIK, continued to advance at my job to senior management, focused on being a more positive person, and naturally became a more confident person for everything mentioned. Things went a lot easier, and I could see people checking me out more in public due to the physical changes mentioned. I read recently somewhere that women start to date when they hit 18, men start to date when they hit 30. Women naturally look for confidence, financial stability, maturity, and a lot of these things come with time or are difficult to achieve at a younger age. I found waiting to find my current partner made me date women in a class that would have been much more difficult in my early 20s.